Now, Papua New Guinea's immigration minister has told Al Jazeera that Australia must take up an offer to resettle refugees involved in a standoff at a former prison camp. About 600 men are refusing to leave the facility on Papua New Guinea's Manus island, which has been cut off from basic supplies since Australia closed it down. Al Jazeera's Andrew Thomas has more from Sydney.
The refugees refusing to leave what was the Manus Island prison have now gone 5 days without food, surviving on rainwater. One thing the refugees are pinning their hopes on is a deal with New Zealand to resettle them. More than 4 years ago, then Prime Minister John Key offered to take 150 refugees a year off Manus Island and Nauru. But Australia's government has never taken up that offer, saying that as New Zealanders have a right to live in Australia, that deal would always be seen as a backdoor into Australia. Well, New Zealand's new centre-left Prime Minister was asked on Sunday morning whether that offer still stood.
We, of course, do not have the circumstances that Australia is operating under, but we also cannot ignore the human face of what Australia is dealing with as well. So that offer is very genuine and absolutely remains on the table.
The offer has been restated. We thank New Zealand for making that offer. We are not taking it up at this time for the reasons I explained earlier.
Malcolm Turnbull said he wants to work through a deal with the United States first to resettle up to 1,250 of the Manus and Nauru refugees there. Only once that process is complete will he consider other offers. But that deal with the US is moving painfully slowly. Donald Trump hates it, and only 50 or so refugees have been resettled in the US more than a year after that deal was first announced. Meanwhile, the suffering on Manus and Nauru goes on. Australia's government has always said that responsibility for the Manus refugees lies ultimately with Papua New Guinea's government. So I asked Jacinda Ardern whether she'd considered making an offer direct to its government instead. Would you consider making this offer directly to Papua New Guinea, leaving Australia out of the loop?
No, because the offer is still under active consideration by Australia, so there is no need to do so.
But according to Papua New Guinea, there is a need to do so. PNG's immigration minister on Sunday told us in a text message that New Zealand resettling 150 refugees would be a great relief to Papua New Guinea and that it's a deal Australia must facilitate. But the bottom line is that without Australia's say-so, it doesn't look as though those refugees will be going to New Zealand.